what's going on, Saints fans? Hope you all have had a wonderful weekend. I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the updated draft targets that the New Orleans Saints could possibly go and get in round one of the 2024 NFL Draft after this first wave of free agency where they were able to address some needs that they had this offseason. But here are the remaining needs, in my opinion. Offensive line is my number one. There's no question about it. I also think that the Saints need some defensive back depth. Wouldn't mind a little extra linebacker depth. I want a big-bodied wide receiver / a tight end that's a good pass-catching guy. And on top of that, I think that edge rusher and defensive line depth is never a bad option. But let's start off with the cornerbacks. Here are 5 guys that the Saints could look at in round one. Terrion Arnold, the Alabama quarterback, opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is also listed here on the screen. Quinyon Mitchell, the Toledo product. He is really, really good. Cooper DeJean. I got the opportunity to discuss Cooper DeJean at the NFL Combine with some really interesting people out there. So got some interesting news I want to share with you in a few minutes. And Nate Wiggins, the Clemson cornerback, could also be an option. To be honest, if you ask me, the outside cornerback spot is less of a priority for me. I think that they need somebody who specializes in the slot. Like, find a guy who specializes in playing in the slot, playing in the box, playing in the nickel spot. Like, I want somebody who can be very versatile on the defense. But let's take a quick look at Terrion Arnold's scouting profile. 6 foot, 195 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore, and he moves very fluidly. He stops. He has really quick start-stop quickness. And in the SEC, he had the number one most pass breakups with 17 and 5 interceptions in 2023. I think that he could be a really good player. What I will say is Kool-Aid McKinstry got targeted a lot less than Terrion Arnold, and I think that part of that is because teams were scared to throw towards Kool-Aid's side. But I will say, for credit to Arnold, he played really well and was able to be pretty effective for the Crimson Tide. But scouting Cooper DeJean, I love this idea. I love the idea of bringing in the Iowa Hawkeye. He's 6'1", 207 pounds. He was the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year, and the anticipation is really, really good. He's a great athlete. He moves really well. His hip movement can be a little bit, concerning. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's going to be a problem, because I think that Dennis Allen does do a good job of developing some of those guys. But he can play safety. He can play cornerback. He also gives you value in being a special teamer and punt/kick returns as well. So really good straight line speed, but worth noting he did have a fractured fibula. And I got sources. I put a tweet out about this, and I mentioned this before on the show before. Sources at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis told me personally that Cooper DeJean and the New Orleans Saints met during the scouting combine in a formal meeting, and it went really well. This source told me that there seemed to be some mutual interest and that Cooper DeJean would be extremely excited to play in the black and gold. So I think that would be a really cool move for the Saints. I think it would be a smart move as well, but I don't know if cornerback is my number one priority. What is your position that you would draft in round one? What's the number one need in the NFL draft? Let me know down in the comments section, and I'm going to be interacting with y'all down below. But let's kick it to the trenches. The most important draft need, in my personal opinion, Taliese Fuaga. Really good player. I think he'd be a good fit in New Orleans. Troy Fontenot, I know, would be a great fit. I like the measurables. I like the attributes there. J.C. Latham, there's a lot of people on social media calling him an Alex Leatherwood 2.0. I agree very, very, slightly. But he's a big dude, really effective. I think that he could be a good player. Fashanu, he's a very popular pick amongst Saints mock drafts. Very big guy, very polished, very, very talented player. And I think that he could be a starter day one. But Joe Alt is my number one offensive lineman on the board. I don't even think he makes it out of the top 10. But if any of those guys don't fit your bill, you can go get Graham Barton, Amarius Mims, Kingsley Suamatia, or Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. But like I said, offensive line is my number one priority. Do not overthink this. If somehow, some way, Joe Alt falls to you, run, sprint even to the stage and turn in that card. There's no reason why the Saints shouldn't go offensive line. There's a lot of really good depth that they could get in round 1. But heck, if you want to go round 2, fine. I think you could still get some really good players at the Saints pick, but no, offensive line is my number 1 need. You got to get better protection for Derek Carr, and you got to get better run lanes for your running backs. But let's go to edge rusher because I know a lot of Saints fans want the black and gold to bring in another edge rusher to eventually replace Cameron Jordan. Jared Verse is a name that a lot of Saints fans really like. Latu, he's one of my favorite players in this draft. Dallas Turner, an excellent player out of Alabama. Chop Robinson, the name is just as cool as the production on the field. Really, really good player. And Darius Robinson, he kind of took the Senior Bowl by storm. A little bit of a one-year wonder for the Mizzou Tigers, but the dude is huge, and I really like the attributes that he has. But let's talk about the interior defensive line as well, because Brian Brzee was really, really good for the Saints. He was number 3, I believe, in sack production for New Orleans this past year. But I think that you could go and add some more talent because maybe a Nathan Shepard or Colin Saunders for the long term isn't your answer. But what about a Jerzon Johnny Newton out of the Fighting Illini, Byron Murphy, the Texas defensive tackle, or Tavondre Sweat, who actually Saints scouts spoke very highly about after the Texas Pro Day. They really liked what Tavondre Sweat was doing, and they liked what he could offer. I want better production out of the defensive line. The fact that your top 5 sack production players, or the players that had the top 5 sack production, weren't all defensive linemen, fine, okay. But when it's Carl Granderson starting edge rusher, starting defensive end, good. And then Demario Davis, linebacker, all right. And then you got Brian Brzee, defensive tackle, and then you got Tano Passanio, and like, come on. I want the defensive line to be better. That's where you can win games. The trenches is where you win games. Offensive line, defensive line. You have to get that shit figured out because the Saints will not be successful and will not make any sort of real noise until they do. But you also got to bring in some pass catchers. Wide receiver and tight ends. I'm specifically mentioning these 2 positions because I think that a big-bodied wide receiver is most important. Now, you're not going to see Marvin Harrison Jr., or you're not going to see Xavier Worthy. You're not going to see Malik Neighbors, because a lot of those guys are going to be picked, or I don't think that they fit the build that I personally want. But an Xavier Legette, a Brock Bowers, a Roma Dunze, Jatavion Sanders, who didn't have a single drop this past season, met with the Saints formally at the Combine, and Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, I would love all of them. Because there's one key thing about all 5 of the guys you just saw on your screen. They all have the size and athleticism combination that are lethal. And I do know that A.T. Perry exists. For me personally, A.T. Perry could be your wide receiver too. I think Rashid Shaheed could be a wide receiver too. But I also don't mind getting somebody who's a little thick. I want a little thick boy, you know? I want some muscle. I'm going to say it. I want some muscle and I want some girth on my players because I want them to not just be able to get hit, fall right down. I want them breaking tackles, shedding through arm tackles, running past players, and blocking like crazy. I want guys who aren't just tall and fast. I want guys who are wide, built, and strong as well. Could you imagine having 2 big-bodied guys, for example, a Rome Dunze or an Xavier Legette? And then on top of that, you have A.T. Perry. And then on top of that, you have Chris Olave. And then on top of that, you have Rashid Shaheed. And then on top of that, you also have Cedric Wilson, a quality veteran wide receiver. I mean, come the hell on. You're telling me you wouldn't love a little bit of that action? I know I would. I want double the servings on Sundays. But I want you to get down in the comment section, because this is Chat Sports, not Trizzy Sports. Name a wide receiver or a tight end that you would like the Saints to draft. Just pick a guy. Doesn't matter what round. Doesn't matter what team, or what school he went to. I don't care. I just want you to shout him out in the comment section because I want to find some more guys that I could possibly do a little bit of more draft research on and a little scouting on, so that way I can be smarter for y'all. I would say linebacker is a big need, but Willie Gay Jr. signing an absolute steal of a contract. 1 year up to $5 million. He is making $3 million guaranteed, guys. It is a 1-year, $3 million contract. And he brings athleticism. He brings playmaking ability. He brings speed. He brings energy. He brings swagger, confidence, moxie, whatever you want to call it. He brings all of that to your defense. And I think that that's going to be so, so good because I'm old enough to remember, in my personal opinion, the best Saints defenses are the ones that have nothing but swagger, nothing but confidence. They're dancing around, having a good time, and playing ball. But I do think that you got to add some linebacker depth at some point. Demario Davis will not play in the NFL forever, never, ever, amen. I also think that Pete Werner could be a guy who gets pushed a little bit. I like Pete Werner. I think he's a good player. But if you're telling me I could get a great player over a good player, it feels like it's a pretty easy decision. Junior Colson out of Michigan, Edgerrin Cooper, he can do literally everything. Tommy Eichenberg, really solid player out of Ohio State, Peyton Wilson, the NC State Wolfpack product, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the son of Jeremiah Trotter. I keep messing that name up. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He is the son of Jeremiah Trotter Sr., the former Eagles legend. These are some more linebacker targets if you guys want to go that route in round 1 or round 2. But thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe if you made it to the end of the video. We're clearly doing something right, so be sure to lock us in. It's 100% free. Just click that big red button right below me. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. We're going to have some more live coverage next week and videos every single day. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.